Hi, Christine Moffett with the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America.
And Beaman Floyd with Texas Impact.
So we are still here at COP29 in Baku, and we're on the second to last day of negotiations. How do you think it's going?
Well, frankly, quite poorly at this point. All of the parties seem to have reached a fairly significant stalling point in the negotiations. There's a general statement being made by all parties that we'd like to move forward from the agreements that were made in Dubai. However, there are just really strong structural disagreements on a number of the really serious issues that are being addressed by the parties.
Yeah, we were both in different negotiations. They went differently, but I think we were seeing the same through line. So I can speak to the negotiation I was in. We opened the meeting with the Secretariat saying, we are not going to find an agreement here. We're going to carry this on to Bonn in the mid-year in June, which was quite shocking to most of us in the room, that we're just putting everything down, throwing our hands up already, and admitting defeat. And a lot of parties that were speaking were, wait, like, let's try to come to an agreement, or at least record a lot of the work that they've done over the last 2 weeks in some sort of informal capacity so that they're not starting from zero. But yeah, we ended that session with no real tangible outcome or agreement. What about your session?
Yeah, well, it was sort of just the opposite with the same result. I was in a protracted negotiation about finance and the drill down detail of how some of the indigenous populations would be treated in the finance structure and finance distribution. And though we went very detailed for a very long time, it was as intractable as yours without the statement that it was already intractable or would be so. So very disappointing to the members who were in the room. And it was also clear that the folks in the room were monitoring yours and other negotiation spaces and realizing that we're really at a very difficult stall point right now in the negotiations.
Yeah, I definitely left feeling as an observer that there are things being spoken about or things happening that I'm not privy to. The Secretariat does not seem hopeful, and I think that is a sign of things happening in informal informals or behind closed doors. But we also were able to see more candid conversation in a larger plenary.
That's right. One of the sort of elephant in the room here at COP is the geopolitical situation and some realignment, including the recent election in the United States and the change in our administrations that is likely to have a profound impact on our participation in COP. As we know, the first Trump administration withdrew from the Paris Accord in the latter days of that administration. The Biden administration put us straight back into the Paris Accord, but I think that there's a strong intuition here that the United States will be in a different administrative posture related to the efforts of the COP here in the next 60 days or so. And so it's that concept is really coloring, I think, the way that the parties are talking to each other in a lot of different ways, including some urgency from the outgoing administration of the United States to get something done, a certain hesitance by people who might be more aligned with the Trump administration to do anything until that administration is in place. We saw the seeds of that yesterday in the revisiting of a lot of settled language in several of the negotiations. And it just feels like we're in a spot where everybody is going to basically draw back and wait and see, notwithstanding the desire to do something immediately by many of the parties here.
Yeah, the uncertainty of transition in the U.S., I think we all knew we would have to deal with that coming into next year. But I don't think I was prepared for dealing with it so soon. Yeah. The minute the election was announced, I think it has changed the posture of a lot of other parties and how they negotiate with us in the United States, and then how the U.S. is really able to negotiate authentically.
Yeah, I think that's true. And as you observed, Christine, it was an interesting moment, if we were going to sort of chart important moments in these negotiations, when parties, in particular Colombia, took the stage in the Kurultai, the grand meeting of parties that was called by the presidency here, and just said very straightforwardly, this is about big geopolitics, and we all need to recognize that, and was applauded broadly in the room and around the venue for finally saying what she and many others here, including me, felt like needed to be said.
Yeah, I've made this connection before in the halls of the conference, but I think back to the check-in, the midway point on the SDGs at the UN last year, where they came up, they were looking at the benchmarks for a lot of the SDGs and saying, we're not on track to meet the Sustainable Development Goals.
Right.
Referencing conflict as one of the big hindrances around the world. Conflict, war. And I'm feeling the echoes of that now here, that geopolitics and conflict around the world, once again, are inhibiting our goals on climate.
You bet. But I would also observe, though, and this is something that we think about a lot, which is, why are we here? And it's really interesting to be here and see the swing back and forth of some of the strong geopolitical currents, but the civil society is basically providing a sustained, actual strong presence toward the goal. In other words, we are the people. We are the voice of those affected constituencies that are saying, look, whatever your flavor of the moment may be in terms of your geopolitical space, we are here and we're not going to let go of those goals that we think are very important. I certainly don't see these negotiations as hopeful at this moment in time, for sure. And I am concerned, frankly, about the underlying structure and how damaged it is by the stalling of the momentum that we've really had since Paris. However, I am, if anything, more than ever convinced that the importance of civil society as the steadying, hard backbone of this process to say, look, we don't care what the flavor of the day is. This is serious business. It's not going away, and we're going to be here to recenter you and refocus you now and in the future.
Yeah, that's great. And I think so much conversation around the U.S. and our political structures switching over every 4 years is there's no continuity. And what you're hitting on right there is that we can be the continuity. The people can be the continuity, the civil society. And so that's what we hope to continue to bring here, I think.
You bet.
Can ask.
Yeah, and rationally and scientifically and with real grace and with real care for our neighbors. I think that's, and in particular, the faith community that you and I represent, of which I am very, almost sinfully proud, in that I think that we really bring that message in such a steady, importantly consistent way. I think if anything, I am more committed than ever to the working with the faith community and having us here and having us driving this process forward.
Yeah, thanks.